Hey guys, gotta do a little video. Don't think this will be a long one. Of course, I say that many times and then I end up talking for 3 videos long. Just a couple of things that I think there may be some insignificant webbot hits. Insignificant meaning not some major doom, yet something they did forecast. Um, and I'll start with Lindsey Williams and the webbot. Especially Lindsey Williams. He's got like 100% accurate track record. He knows he's the old guy that knows an old retired oil guy, elitist, that tells him the agenda, so to speak, and he's been saying it for years. And he's really been on the mark. One of the things he said, get ready for, very soon, and he even gave a date for the first time because this guy gave him a date, and they never give him dates. It's always just, well, this is our plan. Step 1, we're going to try to do this. Step 2, we're going to do this. Step 3, we're going to do this. When they happen is when we get it done. Not necessarily, well, in 5 months we're going to do that, and in another 2 months we're going to do that. It doesn't work that way. It's simply, when we get this task completed, we move on to the next task, according to him. So, he says the dollar is finished. It's going to lose between 30 and 50% devaluation, basically, however you want to look at it, by 2012. And specifically that it would be, in other words, he said this in 2010. So he said by 2011, this will take place, according to his friend, whatever, this guy. And I see this article today. The U.S. dollar is one step nearer to a crisis as debt levels in the world's largest economy increased, said Yu Yongding, a former advisor to China's central bank. Any appreciation of the dollar is really temporary, and a devaluation of the currency is inevitable as U.S. debt rises, Yu said in a speech in Singapore today. Such a huge amount of debt is terrible, Yu said. The situation will be worsening day by day. I think we are one step nearer to a U.S. dollar crisis. Yu also said China is worried about the safety of its foreign exchange reserves, including those invested in U.S. treasuries and the U.S. currency, as the U.S. currency weakens. Reiterating his earlier views of the dollar assets, the U.S. will record a $1.3 trillion budget deficit for the fiscal year ending September 30th. The Congressional Budget Office said on August 19. They've already lowered or sold off, whatever, their U.S. Treasury bonds, whatever, holdings by 10%. I got an idea they're going to do that in a hurry now and get rid of a lot more. Now for some of the Webbot stuff, specifically Webbot, not just Lindsey Williams. Webbot. They talked about UFO/alien type of stuff would increase, 10 times or whatever, just a huge amount normal than what we were used to hearing about in the news. I mean, Jesus, look at around, recently, and now they're talking about this ambassador from the UN, United Nations, is going to be our off-world ambassador should one land and communicate. What the hell is this? Out of nowhere, they just throw that out there. The other day also, the Vatican actually says, one of the popes or somebody, spokesperson there, said, something along, basically, yeah, we believe that aliens do exist, something like that. You're like, what? Coming from the church? Are you kidding me? All this year, and citing after citing, especially if you go to YouTube, man, is that stuff really picking up? Whether it's real or fake doesn't matter. It's the fact that it's making it out there into people's TV sets, news, websites, and it's there. That's how the Webbot reports this stuff. So, anyways, that's one thing. Again, we heard about the UN. Another thing, the Angry Sun is another thing they've been talking about. Angry Sun, unknown space energies impacting the sun, things of that nature. I just read like a week ago about, baffled news data from NASA scientists are baffled of this interstellar cloud our solar system has just entered. And they think it's going to last, 1,000 or more years that will be in this interstellar cloud or whatever. Well, that's funny because if you've watched that video I've mentioned a few times, I think, I usually write it in the comments, I think, because some people ask certain things, so I may not have mentioned it in most of my videos, but I think I've mentioned it a time or two. Go to YouTube, search for Super Wave Theory Project Camelot. That's all you need to find. It should be the first or second one that comes up, and it's this doctor or something guy. I forgot what his name is, but he's got the maybe multiple PhDs. Extremely intelligent guy. He has the super wave theory, in which he says that through the ice core samples, they've been able to find. Basically, he got leftover ice core samples that other scientists before him evaluated for other purposes, but it still contained plenty of data and whatnot for him to go and find, basically. So he's looking at these ice core samples that go back around 500,000 years ago. And he says, I found the strangest thing. There's 3 cycles in which, was it barium or... No, I don't know if it was barium. It was something else. And it's specific to... in other words, it can't really occur on Earth. It has to be from the solar system, and it bombards Earth and the sun and the whole solar system, all of our planets. And it increases this, compound, whatever the hell it is. I want to say barium, but I don't think that's what it was. I don't remember. If you watch the video, you'll see. And he says, that's how I know this cycle keeps repeating. So, one of the cycles is at 26,000 years, he says, approximately. Now that's interesting. Because if you recall, all the ages, right, the 12 ages, the 12 signs, the zodiac, all that, for the amount of time it takes our solar system to go around the Milky Way galaxy, I guess, takes 26,000 years. Each of the ages, which there's 12 of them, the age of Aquarius, the age of Pisces, whatever, those are 2,160 years. So times 12 is basically the 26,000 year that he says. And he says approximately because the tools we use today aren't absolutely perfect, and there could be a band of about 400 years plus or minus that the data could be wrong, only because we don't have the technology right now to be absolutely perfect. But again, 400 years is nothing when you look at a 26,000 year cycle. So that's one of them. The second one is approximately 11,500, which I know has come up many times when you hear stories about, the time Atlantis existed and fell off the face of the earth, and some other ancient type things that refer back to that number, which is interesting. Not too much with me because I haven't really come across it all that much, but I know it's a number that I do come across when I do this research. The third number was really got me. 5,125 years. Every 5,125 years, the cycle also occurs. Just like every 11,500 and every 26,000 years, the same cycle occurs. What he said is, he can tell certain times there's more of that chemical or barium compound, whatever it is, in the ice core samples than other cycles. The thing is, it's not that every 5,125 year cycle, it's worse. It's the bad one. Or the 26,000 year cycle, it's the bad one. He saw the 26,000 year cycles where it had a lot, it was the bad one, and then he'd see another one, it wasn't that bad. The bottom line is, every one of those 3 cycles has some kind of thing occurring, which is occurring right now, by the way, with this interstellar cloud that they've just come across, right? This is what the superwave it probably is that he's talking about, his theory. So anyways, all these cycles happen. Whatever happens in all 3 of these cycles. Some are worse, some are not, and it's just random, whatever. The 5,125 year cycle is very interesting to me because it is exactly when the Mayan calendar started. In other words, if today was 2012, exactly 5,125 years ago is exactly when that damn thing started. So that cycle made me say, whoa, wait a minute. What was that cycle? What was that third cycle you said? That's interesting. So, anyways, this whole thing, there's another theory that this cloud we're entering is now compressing and putting pressure on the Earth, and the sun is putting pressure on the opposite side of the Earth, so it's like you're squeezing this basketball from both sides. This is exactly what Cliff High from the Webbot has been saying for at least a year and a half, if not longer. And he said that's the only way I can describe it is this: we're being squeezed. The Earth is being squeezed. That's all I can really say from the data. That's exactly what the NASA scientists have just recently said. That's a Webbot hit. Angry sun, violent sun. And this guy with the superwave theory says the sun, it's not so much that you have to worry about this chemical compound, whatever element hitting Earth and causing a problem. It's what it does to the sun that makes the sun react violently that you have to worry about in all three of these cycles that he spoke of, because the sun becomes violent, so does the Earth, so does Saturn, so does Mars, so does all the planets. So that's what he said. That's where the problem lies. How bad is this one going to be? We don't know. No telling. He said, and by the way, I can only tell you from a scientific standpoint, we're overdue for one. It can happen any day now, and I would say out within 400 years. And then she said, well, why 400 years? Why not like? And that's when he explained, well, our technology today, carbon dating, etc., and other methods, they're just not accurate enough to say, well, it'll be within the next 5 or 10 years. We have to give it a 400 year. He says, I know about the Mayan calendar, and that's quite intriguing, knowing that 5,125 years ago was the last cycle. Basically. So that's basically, for me, a Webbot hit. I mean, again, these aren't significant yet because they're not causing a problem yet. It's not like, you just lost your house, you're out on the street, you're poor, food shortages have just hit. It's not that. Although that's in the data too, that's not here yet. So that's why I say they're insignificant events, yet on the bigger scope of things, they are highly significant. So that's one thing. We've also had, I think on August 1st of this year, multiple bands and filaments on the sun that exploded and popped off, never before seen type of events to that magnitude. It was like amazing. Caused a 3-point-something C-class flare to come towards Earth, which isn't that big of a flare. Didn't cause problems really, except a few satellite GPS systems did have some trouble and could not operate until this little blast went by, and that was noted in the news. It wasn't significant at all, though. That was basically a small CME, coronal mass ejection, solar flare, whatever, and the fact that our magnetic field around the Earth that protects us from those things has decreased over 90% for the last approximately 8 to 10,000 years. It has lost 90% of its power or magnetic field strength. So we're down to the last 10%. So what does that mean? It means that these smaller flares that we normally would be like, whatever, might actually start causing issues. A C-class flare shouldn't have caused what this issue happened on August 1st. So anyways, let's continue. See, I told you this would be a short video, and it's impossible. It's impossible for me to make it short. Another thing, colleges and the school system will hit financial funding walls, brick walls.